Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, whenever it might happen to be yet again. So we're still waiting to get back into our next session of D&D. So in the meantime, another nice story for you. This time, actually, a bit of background on one of our player characters. A bit of a snapshot into Saladin's life before coming to the city of Titan. I hope you enjoy it. Comment below, let me know what you're thinking of these stories. Let me know what you are looking forward to when we get back into the game, or any questions that you might have about the game, how we're playing it, or any of the homebrew stuff or anything like that. Enjoy this one, and I'll see you again soon.
The coastal town of Dawntide was a quaint, picturesque haven nestled against the sparkling azure sea. Its narrow cobblestone streets bustled with fishmongers, sailors, and traders, all drawn together by the bounty of the ocean. For Saladin, the serene charm of Dawntide was a stark contrast to the farms where he grew up, just the endless rhythm of waves crashing against the shore. It was here, in this peaceful retreat, that Saladin began to find solace after being driven from his home due to his replacement, along with everyone else's, by the robotic laborers. Irina Wavecrest, an elderly but sprightly human woman with silver-streaked hair and a sharp wit, had taken a liking to Saladin almost immediately. She claimed she could spot a lost soul from a mile away, and Saladin's quiet demeanor had practically screamed it. "You're holding it wrong," she said, smirking as she handed him a fishing rod one morning. They stood on the wooden pier that jutted out into the bay, the salty breeze tangling their hair. Saladin frowned, adjusting his grip awkwardly. "It's a stick with a string. How complicated can it be?" Irina chuckled, shaking her head. "Fishing is an art, lad, not a battle. Relax. The fish can sense your tension." He sighed, but did as she instructed, loosening his shoulders and casting the line into the water. Hours passed as Irina shared stories of her youth, teaching him about tides, bait, and the patience needed to coax a fish to bite. By the time he reeled in his first catch, a modest mackerel, she clapped him on the back and declared him a natural. "You're getting the hang of it," she said with a grin. "Stick with me, and you'll be feeding half the town in no time." The Arakokra Tira Mistwing ran one of Dawntide's most popular stalls at the morning market. Her feathers were a vibrant mix of teal and white, and her quick wit made her a favorite among locals. She had a particular fondness for teasing Saladin whenever he stopped by with his catches. "Well, if it isn't Dawntide's newest angler," she chirped, inspecting his haul with a critical eye. "These poor fish didn't even see you coming, did they?" Saladin smirked, crossing his arms. "Jealous of my skills, Miss Twing? You should be. Irina says I've got talent." "Talent for picking the smallest fish in the sea, maybe," she retorted, holding up a tiny sardine from his basket. The two bantered back and forth, their playful jabs drawing laughs from the surrounding market-goers. Despite Tira's teasing, she always bought some of his fish, claiming they made the best smoked fillets in town. It was supposed to be a routine fishing trip. Saladin joined a group of locals on one of the larger boats, eager to test the skills he'd learned from Irina. The morning had been calm, the sea a glittering expanse of blue. But as the afternoon wore on, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. By the time they realized the storm was upon them, it was too late. The winds howled like banshees, and rain lashed against their faces as the boat was tossed about like a toy. Saladin gripped the railing, his knuckles white as waves crashed over the deck. "Hold steady," the captain bellowed, but the storm's fury was relentless. Amid the chaos, Saladin spotted a young sailor, barely more than a boy, clinging to the mast as a rogue wave threatened to sweep him overboard. Without hesitation, Saladin sprang into action, bracing himself against the slippery deck and grabbing the boy's arm just as he lost his grip. "Hold on!" Saladin shouted, his muscles straining as he pulled the boy to safety. The others cheered as the boy collapsed onto the deck, shaken but alive. But their relief was short-lived. A cry for help cut through the storm. Another sailor had been thrown into the churning sea. Saladin turned, his heart sinking as he saw the man struggling against the waves, already being dragged farther from the boat. He didn't hesitate. Tying a rope around his waist, he dove into the freezing water, fighting against the current as he swam toward the man. "Saladin, no!" someone shouted behind him, but he didn't care. He reached the sailor, gripping him tightly as they were battered by the waves. But the man's strength was fading fast, and the sea was unforgiving. "I've got you!" Saladin gasped, but even as he spoke he felt the man slip from his grasp. The sailor's panicked eyes met his for a brief moment before the waves claimed him. By the time Saladin was pulled back onto the boat, the storm had begun to subside. The remaining sailors crowded around him, their faces etched with gratitude and relief. "You saved us," the young sailor he'd rescued said, tears streaming down his face. The others echoed the sentiment, calling him a hero, but Saladin barely heard them. He sat on the deck, drenched and shivering, staring at the spot where the other sailor had disappeared. Irina met him on the pier when the boat returned to dawn tide. The news of his bravery had already spread, and the townsfolk gathered to greet him with cheers and thanks. Saladin shook his head as Irina approached, her face lined with concern. "I couldn't save him," he said quietly, his voice heavy with guilt. Irina placed a hand on his shoulder, her grip firm. "You did what you could, Saladin. You saved a life today. 2, in fact. That's no small thing." "But it wasn't enough," he muttered. "It never is," she said softly. "But we do what we can. That's all anyone can ask of us." That night, as the town celebrated his heroism, Saladin sat alone on the pier, watching the waves lap against the shore. Tira joined him, offering a smoked fish wrapped in parchment. "You've got to stop beating yourself up, you know," she said, her tone uncharacteristically gentle. He sighed, accepting the offering. I wish I could have done more." Tira ruffled her feathers, her gaze thoughtful. "You can't save everyone, Saladin. No one can. But you saved who you could, and that matters. To them, it means everything." As the stars emerged above the calm sea, Saladin let her words sink in. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps all he could do was his best, and that had to be enough. For now it would have to be.